You just got yourself a VR headset. You've been hearing about this amazing game for your friend for weeks or months, and you finally took the plunge, got everything set up, fired the game, and 20 minutes in, oh no. Oh, no. I'm releasing this video 2 days before the twisty, turny, loopy Hellsweeper VR releases, and we're about to see our second big influx of new VR users in 2023 with the release of the Meta Quest 3. So in today's video, we're talking about the best ways to beat VR motion sickness. If there are any tips or techniques I've missed, let me know down in the comments. It's important to understand the basics of how this occurs. What's really happening here is VR is tricking your brain. Your eyes think you're moving and send that signal to your brain, but your body is motionless. Your brain uses a combination of input from pressure and vibration on your skin, the receptors in your inner ear, and your eyes to maintain your balance, coordination, and spatial orientation in your environment. If just one of these inputs is off, you're on your way to Yak Town. A lot of these techniques I'm going to talk about relate to your brain or one of these three inputs. Number 1, get and stay hydrated. Did you know that when you're dehydrated, your brain can actually shrink from the fluid loss? This causes your brain to pull away from your skull, and that's where painful headaches can start. Now compound your shrinking brain with all of that extra processing it's having to do when you play VR, and it's a recipe for a disaster. I keep water near me at all times when I'm in VR, and as an aside, I strongly recommend against drinking alcohol when you're in a headset. Number 2, when you're new to VR, limit your playtime. VR is a physical form of gaming. You're physically exerting yourself even if you're just playing the game sitting down like a simulator or a platformer. So let's say you decided today that you want to become a runner even though you've never been one before. Tomorrow's not the best day to run a marathon. It takes time to train your body for this new input. I don't recommend anyone new to VR to be in the headset longer than 30 minutes, and sometimes even that is pushing it. If you do all the right things, including everything in this video, your tolerance will increase very quickly, but take things easy at first. Number 3, pick the right games. This might be the most important tip in this video. If I see one more person recommend epic roller coasters for a new Quest owner, I'm going to lose my mind. As tempting as it may be to jump into an intense action game like Ghost of Tabor right away, the reality is you're not likely to be able to handle that level of motion out of the gate. Starting out, you want something either completely stationary like Beat Saber or Synth Riders, something on rails like Drop Dead Dual Strike or Zombieland Headshot Fever, or if you have the space, a room scale game like Space Pirate Trainer or Eye of the Temple. If you're new to VR and looking for a good starter game in a certain genre, feel free to ask in the comments and I or someone else in the community will be happy to recommend a good option. Number 4, engage your other senses. If you've Googled how to deal with motion sickness, you've likely seen the advice to have a fan blowing on your legs. It sounds ridiculous, but it does help. Earlier in the video, I explained that your brain uses input of the pressure and vibrations on your skin to help maintain your balance and all those other things. The fan helps with this. That sensation of the air blowing across your body anchors your brain to the real world and gives you a sense of orientation in your play space. You know where the fan is in the room, so you know at what angle it should be hitting your legs. So if it hits at a different angle, then you know you've turned. Another good thing are VR mats. Most of those have specific raised patterns built into them, and feeling them under your feet helps your brain remember where you are in your play space. Remember, your eyes are lying to you, so you need to rely on your other senses to keep your head straight. I personally also like to change the scent in my playroom. I'll either light a scented candle or use an oil diffuser just before I hop into VR. What I'm doing there is creating another real world anchor point so my brain knows I'm not really soaring through space in no man's sky. Number 5, your headset's comfort. This isn't the in-game settings, I'll talk about that in a minute. I'm talking about the physical comfort of your HMD. Let's start with the strap. It's well documented that the Quest 2's default strap is one of the worst things ever in the history of mankind. It creates neck strain due to poor load balancing, and the elastic loosens over time, so you find yourself constantly readjusting or straining your neck even more to keep your head up. Replace it as soon as possible. The type of strap matters too. I'm bald, have a fairly large head with a very prominent forehead. So Halo style straps work best for me as they allow the headset to use all that real estate on my 5 head for load bearing. If you have a thin head, a top strap may be better for you. Also, if you have a lot of hair, consider where that's going to go. If your hair is in a ponytail or in a bun, make sure the strap is not pressing directly against it, as that will cause a headache over time. Also, it's very important to know your IPD measurement. IPD stands for interpupillary distance. It's the distance between the center of your pupil and your eyes. You want your lens to be calibrated to your specific IPD to reduce your eye strain. The Quest 2 isn't great for this because it only has 3 IPD settings, but most any other headset allows for fine IPD tuning for the best fit. If you don't know your IPD, grab a phone and download 3 or 4 IPD measuring apps. I'm telling you to use multiple apps because sometimes you can get different results from different apps. I got the same results from 3 out of 4, so that's the number I use. Number 6, in-game settings. Most every VR game nowadays comes with a host of comfort settings to make the game as easy for you in terms of motion as possible. The big two are motion and turning. Most games will give you the option of full locomotion, where you can use your analog joysticks to walk as you would in a flat screen game, or teleport movement, where you hold a button, point to where you want to go, release the button, and you teleport there. Teleport movement is the most comfortable method because you're not tricking your eyes as much. Some games even have different types of teleport movement, such as dash and blink. There are also the 2 turning types. Snap turning, while not the most aesthetically pleasing, is much easier on your body. Smooth turning can generate some motion blur and judder if the speed is too slow, which will make you nauseous and dizzy in a hurry. There's also a setting, and you'll see it under a couple of different names. Sometimes it's vignette, sometimes it's blinder. What this does is reduces your field of view when you're moving, so your eyes are less susceptible to any effects of artificial movement. If you're struggling in any game with movement, experiment with these settings. I personally would start with teleport movement and see if that helps. Number 7, brightness and persistence. This is going to vary headset by headset, and what it's really going to affect is where you set your brightness. Persistence is how long the display is lit in a single frame. You generally want this to be as low as possible, and it's not something that you, the user, can help. It's built into the design of the headset. If it stays lit longer than it should before moving to the next frame, you get motion blur, and this absolutely can make you sick. The way to counter this, and in general this is a good idea anyway, is to lower the brightness of your headset. So if your headset is bright to a point where you find your eye being strained a bit, or you're noticing motion blur, simply turn your brightness down. Number 8, ginger. Not that ginger. I'm totally dating myself there. Ginger is medically proven to reduce nausea. My tolerance is good enough that I don't really need these anymore, but for about 6 months I would take a ginger supplement or a ginger chew while gaming. You can find these at pretty much any retailer or on Amazon. Number 9, stop. If you get motion sick, stop playing. You hear some people tell you to push through it, but they're wrong. In the moment, there's a chance you'll feel better, but you will absolutely feel worse when you're done gaming and all the adrenaline wears off. People who push through motion sickness can wind up sick for days, and if that happens to you and you're new, that could be enough to turn you away for good. Your tolerance will absolutely get better over time, but you gotta have patience. Number 10, learn your triggers. This one is tough because you only learn this one with failure. Different people have motion sickness triggered by different things. Speaking personally, I've always been fine with artificial movement and smooth turning, but a choppy frame rate and ghosting sends me loopy. So I stay away from games I know are poorly optimized, really early betas, and a fair amount of VR mods because my jank tolerance is lower than most, despite having been in VR for several years now. I have a friend I game with who has also been in VR for years and to this day cannot handle smooth turning at all. My daughter has no issue in zero gravity games like the dearly departed Echo VR, but she tried a racing game once and only lasted 5 minutes. Fact is, there are going to be some games that just don't sit well with you, and there's a chance you're never going to be able to play them. But if you insist on playing such games, think about everything else in this video and make sure to set yourself up for a success. Let me know down in the comments the last time you got motion sick and what game you were playing. I'd also love more suggestions for beating motion sickness, as we absolutely want newer VR players to beat this as quickly as possible so they can spend more time in a headset. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe, as I'll be making more tips and guide videos like this in the future. If you want my list of the best VR games for new players, click the video on the screen right now, and as always, thank you for watching.